On the 25th of November 2018, at around 8:15 p.m. on Sunday night in Barna, Galway, I was with my father in his car as a passenger, on our way to my father's house past the city and in the countryside area, when we both saw something below the clouds move around very fast in the distance that was between 3 and 4 miles away. It was at first hovering in one place before moving downwards and across our line of sight. It was unusual due to its brilliant white light and its rapid descent from cloud cover as we approached it. We both remarked how bizarre it was behaving and how it looked. As we approached its location in the car, I observed that it moved strangely, initially thinking it was a passenger plane but my father saying it's a satellite before saying it's something else entirely. It then paused its flight path and moved the opposite direction. Since we were on a coast road, this meant it was now moving quickly towards the ocean bay rather than its initial path inland. Its altitude remained just below the clouds with short moments of dropping lower. Once we reached a beachside car park, we pulled in to get a better look at it, at which point the flying object began moving side to side, flashing for a few seconds a red light and then a green light intermittently. It moved quick and I could see it was still quite far away, about half a mile, indicating to me that it was in fact quite large and around the size of a passenger plane. It was pitch dark at this point with no rain and little wind, and it was night time, so its flashing colors were clear to see even at that height among the clouds. Unfortunately, I couldn't make out the shape of the object in the dark night sky. We watched it move back and forth to our left and right vantage until it turned at a sharp 90 degrees angle and began moving towards our direction. I watched the green flashing light turn into a flashing red at this point as it moved quickly directly over our heads, occasionally being obscured by the belly of the cloud above. It moved much faster than a passenger plane and was utterly silent while moving over our heads. This was shocking to see, as I was used to air traffic in the area such as planes and helicopters being very audible. It then turned off its red lights, of which I could see there were 2 of, and traveled down the coast towards the direction in which we came. As we turned around, I was able to briefly film it as it suddenly switched back on its original bright white light. This light was like a huge spotlight in the sky. It was very strong and visible. It seemed to hover for a few moments and lower in altitude until it moved further down the coastline direction and quickly disappeared from sight. My father made the observation that it had traveled probably 10 plus miles in that time frame and that the light must have been very powerful to have been still visible. It moved more inland rather than out to sea and probably didn't get to the city nearby but instead was moving more towards the rest of the countryside. With regard to our reactions, the turning point was really when it began flashing lights. We were both transfixed, and as it turned towards us and passed overhead, I had a chill down my spine knowing I was witnessing a technology I'd never seen before being displayed. It moved not unlike a bird in that it turned and flew in all directions very easily and with grace, all without making a single sound. This being a large aircraft made it an inspiring thing to look at. When it then turned back on its full white light in the distance, the effect was unnerving in that I'd never seen a light so bright come from one vehicle. I felt like I had a spotlight focused on me, it was so piercing and white. Afterwards we discussed it and confirmed with each other that it was nothing we'd ever seen before. Neither of us believed it was a drone, plane, balloon, helicopter or anything like that. It was something very swift and unusual, with erratic flight paths and great speed, control and flying capabilities compared to normal commercial aircraft or even military aircraft that I've observed. It is fair to say that I also experienced a great deal of adrenaline watching it pass overhead. Many of my doubts about it being a UFO went away as we approached it. It was clearly a very unusual sight to anyone watching.
As the field investigator on this case, I interviewed the witness I checked flight radar for any known aircrafts in the area at the time of the sighting. I checked weather conditions. I also checked for any other UFO reports on the same night at the same area. I also draw out a trajectory of the object moving towards and overhead of the witness and his father. I also analyzed the video he posted in very much detail. The witness seems very credible and wants to be anonymous. He was very sincere and honest in his voice over our telephonic conversation and explained that this was something he has never experienced in his life. As MUFON's field investigator, my conclusion is what the witness saw was truly an unidentified flying object, and I believe it is technology we have not seen before. I couldn't prove it to be any identifiable flying objects. According to the witness interview, his statement and the video uploaded, that there was an unknown object in the sky that evening. Whether it was controlled by extraterrestrials or human intelligence, that is not known today.